Welcome to the Tucktropolis podcast, episode 3, with the Billy Boo.
Hello, we are together. You and me, both of us together.
Indeed, very much. Yeah, we are talking about this was Billy's idea, but we are gonna be talking completely not what I expected to be talking about during these podcasts for sure. Not what I expected, but you know what? We're gonna roll with it. It's like improv. We're gonna roll with it. But yeah, we're gonna be discussing Monsters Inc. Why the hell not? Let's do it. Why the hell not? So I know that Billy, you've seen it. You've seen it. I think you said you've seen it like after like, oh, what was it, like a few years after not seeing it, or like a year or something, you said?
I've seen it in my childhood, and I
Yeah.
rewatched it a year or two ago because my friend hadn't seen it, and I'm like, "What? You have to see this!"
Oh
And I
yeah.
showed it to him, and then I rewatched it just now, earlier today actually, and
Okay.
oh my god, there's enough to talk about where I felt like this video needed to exist.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was actually thinking about doing a review, but I think this will be good anyways, regardless. So we'll go and do that, I guess. Hell, I might even just title this Monsters Inc. review instead of this. I don't know if I'm gonna do
I
a
was gonna suggest
discussion.
that actually. You read my mind.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that. Yeah, that seems about right. Um.
Review.
But yeah. So, what do you want to discuss first? What do you want to do?
Oh, that's a good question. So the thing is, one thing that jumped out to me first when I was watching it was the humor. I remember I read I don't know why I was reading this. I think it was because I was looking for status lines for Mike Wazowski because I was looking for different profile pics on Discord. I stuck with Randall.
Yeah. He had a Randall. That's actually the reason why I wanted to watch it, because he had a Randall status that was the
Yeah,
winds of change line.
remember that?
Yeah.
It's the winds of change.
Yes.
I remember that by heart. I didn't have to look that one up, but I was looking up which one would be best for Mike, and I looked through some of the lines, and some of them were funnier than I remember. I'm like, oh my god, these lines are actually kind of way wittier than I expected to. I don't
Yeah.
know if it, and I thought it was just the acting, but to be fair, even when I reading them on paper, the lines like I'm trying to think we're like, oh, I love the one where Mike and Sully are walking down the street and they're Mike was upset that they couldn't take the car, and then him and Sully are bickering and whatnot. And then it's like Sully's like, we could use the workout, and then Mike's like, of course you can. Look at you. You have your own climate.
Yeah, I love that line too. That was a good one. That got me laughing a little bit too. Oh, I love that line. That was a good line.
And then at the beginning where it's like, today's a good day, just lay in bed,
Yeah, that part.
watch a slob that's hanging over the bed.
Wake up, Sally.
And yeah, yeah, I feel like, this is obvious, but obviously Mike has a majority of the comedic, which makes sense because Sully doesn't crack jokes as often, and Mike is always, which isn't a bad thing. For some movies, people hate characters like Mushu or Timon. Sometimes, not everybody, or there's sometimes people think they're trying way too hard to be funny, but with Mike, I don't know, it felt natural. This is the kind of thing he would I love Mushu and Timon. I'm not saying this is what I think about them. But with Mike, I don't know, it just felt natural. Everything he said, everything, there was not a single line that was uttered out of his mouth that I either didn't chuckle, didn't smile, etc.
Oh yeah.
The way Billy Crystal delivered his lines, you have a lot of movies where you have celebrity actors and
Oh
you
yeah,
just
for
cast
sure.
it for the fame, for the money, but they were so perfectly cast that they feel nostalgic voice actors who have honed the craft, like Rob Paulson or Frank Welker. They don't feel like celebrities phoned in for the thing. And Billy Crystal said he was very fond of the character too. So
Oh yeah.
with animation, it seemed like some people, not all people, but it has this negative stigma of it only being for kids, and it's not well written, or there's not enough effort, or it's not as serious as live action. It shouldn't be taken as seriously. That's why animation took long, if I'm not mistaken, took longer to actually be an Oscar nominated film.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think what was it? Was it Toy Story or something like that? That got really. That was really whenever it really started. Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast was the first one, I think that was. I don't know if it received one or if it was just nominated, but I think Beauty and the Beast was the first one to ever be nominated for it. I don't know if it got an actual award or.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Oh.
If somebody knows, please let us know in the
Yeah. Go ahead. By all means, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'd be very
I don't
curious.
claim. Yeah, exactly. And I'll go into that with the writing too. But like the timing of the jokes, like I said, if sometimes it gets annoying, like it could overstay its welcome. But I felt like they never overdid it with the jokes.
Uh-huh.
Like it had its serious moments. Like there were some like really emotionally powerful and like some. Like,
I mean, how you can look at the entire part whenever they're banished as a good example of that. There was some there was some good witty humor with the snowman, but that's with the abominable snowman, but like yeah, but there was also some really like crazy moments with Mike. I also love it whenever I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little bit, but I love it whenever Sully leaves and like you see Mike turning his back to him, and he turns around like, wait, he actually did that? He actually left? Like a moment of realization, like, man, he really does mean this, huh? That sort of thing. I like how that was done.
And he kind of regrets it too. Like he sees the look on his face, like maybe I shouldn't have said those things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like those subtle animation expressions.
Oh yeah,
some people like act like CGI or like 2D, like one is better or inferior than the other. But like the level of expression and movement they were able to get, like the way Randall moves, the way each monster has their own unique way of moving, and for the time, obviously rendering has come a long way since then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like the hairs on Sully's body that took ages to work out, like the thousands and thousands of hairs.
Yeah, it looks impressive, especially now. It looks impressive.
Like this movie was groundbreaking for the time.
Oh yeah,
it still is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hair technology and animation, it was forwarded a lot by this movie's progress.
Yeah.
Should not be underestimated.
Oh yeah, for sure not.
Now you can see Mr. Incredible's pubes in full detail.
Oh my god, man! I cannot wait for that on the special DVD box set. Oh my god, that's gonna be great.
I said that because there was like this video where it was like I don't whatever, it was like this it was a joke kind of video where it was like I was an animator in Incredibles 2 and I couldn't see my family because I spent hours overnight working on Mr. Incredible's Bulge, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, but anyways, beside the point. So yeah, the humor is like, it was great. Like Mike, I guess I carried most of it, but then you have like stuff like Sully's reactions or like 23 or like, running. And the thing is with Mike, I want to go back to Mike for a second. With the comic relief characters, they can be a bit one-dimensional at times. Sometimes the story doesn't need the. It depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell. Like where sometimes cartoons don't need full like character development and arcs. With Mike, he wasn't just a joke machine. Like there were several parts where like he had like was like, what about us? Don't I matter? What about I'll never get to see Celia again? Doesn't she matter? What about our job? Everything we worked for? What about our friendship? Like Mike was just as integral to the plot as Sully. In fact, like if it wasn't for the whole paperwork thing where Sully had to file the paperwork, aka Mike forgetting to do the paperwork, he would have never saw the door open, and the whole plot would have never started. Yeah. So like, and Boo would probably have the life sucked out of her by now, and she'd be dead.
Oh yeah.
And the whole conspiracy plot and everything, like.
I love. Can we? I kind of want to touch on that because that was one of them that I was gonna touch on. I love the fact that like, oh god, what was it? How like Randall kind of figured out that like kind of Mike at least kind of knew a little bit about what was going on or whatever, but like Mike he assumed that was just like, oh, because you're trying to break the scare record, and then like Randall pauses like oh yeah, right, like trying to play it off like he wasn't doing whatever he was doing, but he was trying to break the scare record. He was trying to play it off. I like how they wrote that. I love that.
Yeah.
Especially, it's one of the, you know how like some people say like, oh, if you know what happens in the movie, it ruins the movie. That was one of those moments where you could appreciate, if you've already seen the ending and you've already seen whatever happens, you appreciate it on a second watching because you're like, wow, I like how they did that. That was cool. I like that. It was cool. It was very well done.
You get it. See, I was going to say that later on because there's so many things in this movie that I appreciated so much because I understood what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
there were so many, like, for instance, let's take the scene where, like, they took Boo to was it Sully's room or Mike's room? I mean they share the same room, so I guess it is.
Yep.
But yeah, they went back to their house, right?
Yep.
And Boo was crying, and all the power was flickering, and then when they made her laugh, the power
All the
was
power went back on. That was cool. I love that. That was sweet. Little tiny foreshadowing. That was really neat.
where it foreshadowed the fact that laughter was the better
Laughter
substance.
was way more powerful. Yep.
And that was the solution to the problem. It was the solution to that scene. And then
Mhm.
you have stuff like where like there's one line where like Water News was talking with Sully, and it's like, I would do anything to keep this company afloat. And the way he said that, I'm like, oh, I got chills down my spine. That
Oh
line
yeah,
hits
yeah.
so
Because
hard.
yep. Exactly.
That's such a clever line because it hits so hard. Like, the thing is, I learned about like writing where like good dialogue has subtext to it. Sorry
Yeah.
about the background.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good.
Where like good dialogue has subtext. Not every line of dialogue does that,
Mhm.
but like like with writing, not every rule has to be followed. You can have exceptions to the rule, but it's nice to have extra meaning behind lines because otherwise you just get flat dialogue, like hello, hi, whatever. But like when you're writing something, every line, every scene, everything counts and has a purpose. So when you have dialogue like that has extra meaning to it and it's not obvious, like you have to be clever to figure it out, and it makes you feel rewarding, and it makes those extra watch throughs. That's how you know your story is actually good, because like it's, and not just adding meaning for the sake of adding meaning, but those things build on each other.
Oh yeah.
That leads me to another point: structure. I watched this and Who Framed Roger Rabbit the other day, and one thing I noticed about these two movies, I don't know if it's just because I have a weird, like I tend to lose track of time really easily and stuff. So like it makes it like the time went by super fast, but like I realized something. There were a few breaks, but it felt like one long scene rather than a long movie with multiple. There's some movies where they have segmented eras.
Yeah, true. I did feel that. I did feel that a lot throughout the movie. I felt like everything flowed really, really nicely together. Like
It's so
everything,
good.
yeah, and
I
everything
can't
made
believe we're just
sense, and
walking onto the
everything didn't
factory.
overstay their welcome.
Exactly. They knew
Yeah.
exactly when to focus on things, including small details, so it wasn't just a bland plot with no extra details going on. But at the same time,
I love the part with the bag. How you see the bag of Monsters Inc. kind of just like foreshadowing the fact that they're gonna be, they're gonna be mainly searching. So that way, that reveal of them opening up the door, everything's gonna be fine, and they see everybody in there. They're like, oh my god.
yeah, like you start like, what are you gonna do? Waltz up to the factory? I can't believe we're waltzing up to the factory. It just cuts.
Yeah, I love that part too.
Yeah, like the thing is, it knows how to be detailed enough to a point where like there are different subplots, things are building on each other, so the plot is actually interesting. But at the same time, it is concise enough to a point where like they don't give you unnecessary information.
Yeah.
And they don't overload you. They don't waste any of your time.
Yeah.
And normally, like it feels so concise, and like with good screenplays, like it's not just like, I've been told like that by many different like videos with expert writers, where it's like, a series of events is not a story, but if you learn how to connect and build on those events and tell something out of those events, then it is a story. And each of these events, like, I mean, technically, I guess it would feel short because it was only like 1 or 2 or a few days. I don't know. It's like less than a week's time. So like, of course it would feel fast, but like, even then, like you think it would be much longer, but the pacing was so perfect. Like literally not a single scene line felt like it shouldn't be there. The only issue I have, I mean, I don't really harp on it too much. Maybe there was a deleted scene or something, but like, you know how like Mike was stranded with Sully, but Sully left without him.
Oh yeah.
And you saw how Sully got back, but Mike just sort of reappeared.
Mike just kind of yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, what? How the hell did you? I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, Mike just sort of teleported. Like,
yeah, like he was like an Enderman from Minecraft. Like, hello.
It's like, bro.
Like, jeez, man.
But the fight scene, like, between Mike and Sully, like there's a lot of contrived like battle scenes in films where like the characters have a falling out. It's such a typical plot point.
Oh yeah, it is. It's cliche.
So typical. But with Mike and Sully, the way they set up their friendship and their dynamic, especially on Monsters University when they expand upon that more.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
And then you have them falling out. Mike, like I said, usually it'd be hard to take a comedic character like Mater or somebody seriously in this moment. But with Mike, it feels so real. You understand what he went through. You understand the struggle. like, and like when Mike was like, all you had to do was listen to me.
Yeah.
There, all this would have been avoided if you had just listened to me once. But
Yeah.
no, you just had to keep doing that, did you? It's like now we're stranded in the middle of nowhere, and then you have like the snowman trying to break it up, and and it's just kind of awkward. It really illustrates the awkward silence when you have it.
Yeah.
It helps that it's not taking itself too seriously
Yeah.
because you have the abominable snowman trying to break it up, so
Hey,
it
hey,
feels like it's
hey.
still with the
Oh,
rest of
oh,
the
would
movie.
you look at that? I'm out of snow cones. I'm gonna go and make some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the way they try to retcon him in Monsters University, I'm like they could have done an abominable snowman cameo still, but I felt like the way they did it was kind of sloppy because it's like
Mm-hmm.
they were supposed to be meeting him for the first time, so like kind of retconning that was a little weird. So, but whatever. Maybe you could argue it was his cousin with the same voice
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Monsters Inc. lore is not. But speaking of that, the world building, the way they set up the world and how they explore it, like usually like with people like they have an idea for a world and they may not fully expand upon it. But
Yeah.
Monsters University, like the climax is one of the coolest ideas for a climax I've ever seen in a film. Like to utilize the door system and they're writing on the doors and you see this massive set, like this massive like landscape with all the doors and the factories,
I
and they
love
go
how they
inside the
waited
doors.
till the end of the movie to show you that inner working or whatever because it
Yeah,
makes it so much more interesting instead of them just like, oh my gosh, here's like you know how like take for example, you remember Willy Wonka? I think it was like I want to say it was I think the 1970s one did it as well, but I think the remake did it kind of like a little bit. It makes more sense for my example how they just like kind of showed everything, like every little bit of the chocolate factory and how they make everything. That would be like that happening at the beginning of the movie. And it would just be
yeah,
like it's kind of stupid. You don't really you kind of really there. But the whole thing. Also, by the way, the intro sequence was cool. By the way,
yeah. That
gotta
was
gotta
great.
say that is still a good intro sequence to this very day.
Randy
I love that
flexing
one.
his musical skills on us.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, everything just the
Yeah.
visuals of that were just amazing. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the thing is, it was such a clever idea and subversive. Like the way they went to all the doors to escape, the way the door was utilized as a source of conflict when they were banished earlier in the movie. Like every part of the world building is like not a single detail is wasted when it comes to characters like George and his buddy, like the running gags, the jokes, everything. Like I said, it's not overused, but
Yup.
it's expanded
Yeah.
upon, so it's
Yeah.
not wasted. So like the way the world building, like the way the energy system works, the comments, and I want to backtrack to the scene where like they do the news report. Oh my god, it was hilarious, but it also I think it holds up surprisingly well nowadays. Like the commentary sequence where like you have the news reporter. It's like
Yeah.
breaking news. Humans was sighted, and then you have like the guys. He lifted me up with his eyeballs, and he
Yeah.
used onion
Yeah.
beams, and the people lying about what they saw and stuff. That's how people are in real life, where like they twist the facts and stuff, and things get lost. Like the way that whole news report was done, it was parody, obviously, but it's so
Yeah. Oh yeah,
accurate.
for
It's so
sure.
I'm like I could not help but think the writers were actually trying to do a commentary on like real life like news reporting and stuff, and how this kind of stuff is done. Um, like I'm like, yo, this is actually, like the movie. You do have like Water News taking advantage of his position, taking
Yeah.
not for the sake of his like. You can't help but think there's more to the screenplay than just a simple like funny story. I mean, it is a good story in that regard, but like there is a layer of depth to the way the world is constructed and everything. Like the system behind the company, the way everything works. Like they definitely took time to establish everything, and it all pays off. Everything like Water News's lines and his bond with Sully ended up making the conflict all the more resonating, and his legacy ends up playing a part into his motivation as to why he's
Yeah.
doing what he does and why he's so hell bent to stop anybody from, Randall's, motivate Randall's like, behavior and his motivations. You have like the whole way the world's set up. So you have the ideas of doors, right? So people are fascinated with how these doors work and how they play into the movie. So
Mhm.
instead of just drop what new writers do is that they sometimes I've been told, I obviously haven't seen too much, I'm still learning, but like I've been told that a big mistake people make is that they dump too much information before you start to figure things out, so you start to get turned off by that. But in
Yeah.
Monsters, they feed you breadcrumbs. They give you piece by piece, and they set these things up, and they get paid off at just the right moment when you want to know what it's about, and it feels so satisfying. It feels so cathartic. Every joke, every emotional moment, and it's all set up intricately, like Sully's like Sully's bond with Boo, and you have the music cues, like how like in movies, like they have motifs that are assigned to specific characters or scenes, and they have meanings. Like you have the theme that plays whenever Sully and Boo are bonding, and it pays off later
Yeah.
on. You have the final scene, and then you have that really really sad music. Like Randy Newman's ability to tell a story with the music. He said he writes the music like a character in Monsters University, and it definitely shows.
Oh yeah.
Like the story is really good, but I feel like this is one of the rare cases where like even if you read it as a novel, it would be missing out on the amazing music and the character
Oh yeah, for
expression.
sure, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Everything is equally as good. I feel like I can't imagine anything about it. It's such a perfect, like they take advantage of the animation medium. Like that's what Pixar does. Like they utilize the animation medium to its best. So like you could try to make it in live action, but it just wouldn't be as good. You would have to completely rewrite it into a different thing. The way this is perfect for animation, especially CGI.
Yo,
Like
yeah.
not that it would be good, but like they take advantage of everything comes together to make this, like the editing, the way where it feels like one long scene that just keeps expanding and everything just pays off.
Mhm.
Like it's done so beautifully, so expertly. I feel like it's so underrated. Emotional moments, like with Pixar, they have the ability to do these really sincere, like even if it's like a monster with you know magenta polka dots and tealish fur and
Yeah.
a little girl, or like a toy with literally
Oh
no
yeah, a
physical
toy,
energy.
literally a toy. Yeah.
They're literally able to have us empathize with it, and it may not be a literal thing, but like it's a metaphor for a part of the human condition.
Oh
So
yeah.
like with Sully, Pete Docter, the director and one of the writers of the film, said that he at the time he was becoming a father. So the idea stemmed from the way Sully was becoming attached and care for Boo. It was relating to his own experiences becoming a father and that portion of his life. And I mean, you could argue there are other things too, like for instance, Sully learning that like I was learning about transcendentalism earlier and like nonconformity and those sort of things, like
Yeah.
learning to think for yourself. And society, and it kind of like I said with the news report earlier, where like people were so quick to tell lies and believe and panic. I remember the reporter was like, "In my professional opinions, the best thing to do is panic."
Panic.
And it kind of talks about like how society, some people are stupid sometimes and they believe,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
based on my situation, people believe things even if they're not true, and sometimes misinformation spreads and people panic, and sometimes it shows the worst in people, how they react in these sort of situations, where Water News was willing to sabotage and even potentially harm or kill his best men and kidnap children and potentially extract the scream and kill them too, just to keep his company afloat, even though he genuinely did care about Sully and was kind of a semi-decent person in the beginning. So
Yeah.
I'm like, it kind of shows like, they're monster. Like, I mean, they are monsters, so it's kind of funny, but like,
Yeah.
Sully realizes they're all wrong, and that's Boo. There's nothing wrong with her, and he has to kind of learn to think for himself, even if people are coming after him. He risks losing his job. Mike's girlfriend, like his friendship with Mike, he's willing to risk everything just to protect her. When he previously believed she was toxic. So like there is elements of like the other themes in there too. So I don't know. I don't know if that was by accident or on purpose, but knowing Pixar, it probably was on purpose. And I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Pete Docter did write Soul, and that movie was all about like the meaning of life and how you should, embrace everything. It's a very deep film. So I'm like, if you
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've never seen it though. I
it's
might.
really good. It's amazing.
Okay.
And then there's Inside Out, which was also directed by Pete Docter, which talks about the human
Now
mind.
that one I have seen. That one's great.
And then there's Up, which is also
Oh
a
yeah.
very depressing and more profound film. So like Pete Docter definitely isn't afraid to go there.
Oh
in
yeah,
terms
for
of,
sure.
like, themes and deeper storytelling. So with Sully and Boo's bond, I always cite that as a scene, like at the very end when he says goodbye. I know at the very end they're gonna see each other again. I
Oh
know
yeah,
that
absolutely, but you don't. It's a weird feeling. You kind of don't. It's
yeah.
strange. That's
There's
because that's how it's written. It was
there's
like,
no death.
man.
There's no death. There's no harm. Everything ends up just fine. The villain ends up getting
But
taken in, and
you still feel for it. It's the weirdest thing. I felt it too.
yeah.
Like I know
See,
exactly what's gonna happen. I already know what's gonna happen. He's gonna call out for Boo, and then she's gonna go Kitty, and he's gonna smile, and that's gonna be the fade to black. That's how it's gonna work. But whenever you're watching that scene, you're just like, oh man, especially the delivery of Kitty has to go. Oh my god,
yes.
so good, So
I
well
get
done.
goosebumps thinking about it right now. I'm getting teary eyed just thinking about it. Where it's
So
just like
good. So well done.
there's Mufasa's death. There are tons of different death scenes, and
Even
different.
even
Really,
I mean, you talked about Toy Story, Jesse. The part with Jesse and the owner. Oh my god, that song. Yeah.
the goodbye scene at the end of Toy Story 3, or
Oh
like
yeah, for sure. Oh my god,
the opening scene
yeah.
of Up. There are
Yeah.
many different scenes throughout cinema. It shows everything where it's much more tragic and over the top and really depressing. But it's
Honestly,
like,
Pixar has a lot of those too. You know,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
yeah.
So people might be like, why would you choose that scene over anything else? Like nobody gets hurt. It's just a simple goodbye. But
Well, to be fair, the reason why I think is because, well, you talked about Toy Story 3, right? I love that scene. That scene's still great. That scene of Andy handing out all the toys and stuff and going through every one and stuff is great. That's a great scene. But it really lost its emotion whenever you watched it the second time. You knew that everything was okay because it's technically a happy scene. So it's not like the thing, but the whole thing with the Boo and Sully. I
Sully,
almost just said
he
Kitty
gets
for some
retcon
reason.
at the end. They get back together, but like
Yeah,
during this,
exactly. But you kind of like the writing was so well done to the point where it's like, oh my god.
you feel Sully's raw emotion. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
logic.
absolutely. You
It's
feel it
not
because
necessarily a matter of, oh, what's going to happen in a story. I need to find out. It's just seeing Sully so like the contrast and the irony between like Kitty. I mean, not Kitty. Boo being so
you did it too.
where Boo was so happy to be with Sully, and then deep down he knew that like some things just have to be done. Like life. You can have your fun times in life, but sometimes things happen, and it's for the best. And seeing Sully like having to come to terms with that, and
Oh
seeing Sully
yeah.
like. There are times in life where like you're so lost in emotion where like nothing else matters but what's in front of you. Like, and it's kind of like in Soul where like the guy has to learn how to not be so focused on his goals and just enjoy life for what it is, and not become a machine where he's overlooking things in his life. That's the most I'll say about spoilers. But
Okay.
like
All right.
we're like Sully, where like that seems to be a theme in his films. Then where Sully has to sort of like, even though there are logical factors about writing and stuff where you think it wouldn't be as bad, you just see the raw emotion. Like, you don't need these fancy over the top displays of action and blood and sex and violence and
Oh
the
yeah,
most
for
the
sure. Yeah,
most Shakespearean elaborate story ever told. No, you just need a very sincere, heartfelt, powerful, raw, authentic, believable characters. They don't even necessarily need to be realistic, but animation, people are like, oh, this is realistic. It's like, no, it's not about realism. It's about believability. Is this talking lion who can sing? Can I believe what he's thinking? Is that how he would move in this imaginary world? Is this what he would say and do? It's about believability. It's a mixture between doing the impossible and doing what we empathize with. And it's a way of expressing both of those things together, and they complement each other. So in this scene, yeah, it's absurd. It's a monster being upset that he's no longer able to see a human that caused them so much trouble, and technically they're not supposed to be friends thanks to society and what they're telling them that it's best. It's like we should pretend like this never happened. We shouldn't tell the truth. It's best that things remain the way they are, and monsters and humans don't cooperate, so you're not going to be able to see her again. And at this point in time, obviously, society changes. We're like things for the better, but like in the beginning, it's sort of like, it had to be done whether you
Oh
liked
yeah.
it or not. And it's absurd, but like the raw emotion, the bond, like they do such a good way of hooking you into it, where like it feels so sincere and emotional. Like none of the details matter, but like you just feel this raw emotion, just this raw like inner like deep like goosebumpy chemical in your brain and body, just sort of like it's almost like you're in a trance-like state where like you're so invested in what's going on, where like everything else just kind of blurs out. You can just feel like the music. And music helps you get into it as well.
Oh
You
yeah,
have
for sure.
the music, and it helps too because, like I said, it's a motif. It's played throughout the movie, and that song represents Sully and Boo's dynamic. So it's played during all the scenes, and musicians and directors, they do this technique as a way of having the audience subconsciously associate that song with a scene or a theme or an
Yeah,
idea or a character.
it's like Star Wars has Leia's theme. It's like
exactly. That's why
it's any or the Force theme in
so
any story. Yeah, it's
they reaffirm this song in your mind,
yeah
so when
because
it
it reminds you of something. It reminds you of that. That's what it reminds
and it
you of.
builds,
Yeah.
and it also builds too. Yeah, so
Oh
like
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, so you have that brilliant setup and payoff of the musical storytelling with the really subtle, like it doesn't do over the top really sad things where it's like really sad. No, like you have this subtlety. Sometimes people overdo it, but like with acting or with animation, you're not stupid. People
Yeah.
are like, oh, animation's for kids. Let me just make this dumb thing where they all fart and it's
Yeah,
blurry.
yeah, right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
but no, it's like it respects the audience's intelligence, kids and adults, and you have this subtle where you can tell what's going on and you see the expressions on Sully's face. And with animation, it's not just with the dialogue and whatever. The animation is expressing the story too, because otherwise, what's the point? You can just make it live action then, if they're just, or you can just make it a novel or something. But like the animation is part of the storytelling too, and the way you have the shot of Sully and Boo and the subtle movements, and then Sully's face as he tears up and everything. Those little subtle touches, they add when they
With
combine.
the music, with the music in the background.
Exactly.
Oh my
And
god.
so
Yeah.
everything just is it's like the most beautiful but like meal ever. It's like all the
Mhm.
ingredients coming together.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. I know probably I know I may seem like a Monsters Inc. fanboy where like
Oh
it's
no,
like
no, no, it's all good. Dude. Trust me.
I
I've
did
agreed
criticize
with most of the things.
I
I've
did
agreed with most
criticize
of it, so
I did criticize Mike just reappearing
you
out of thin
did, you
air.
did, yeah, you did, which I'm glad because that's the only thing I really critiqued too. That's really it. I was kind of like, yeah, that kind of just happened, didn't it? And I knew it too because I was like, wait, because you know how I said it in the in the TC, I guess, in the text chat a few days ago. How I said like I think I said something along the lines of like, I know what happens, but I don't know how exactly they happen. I knew Mike was coming back, but I didn't know how. So whenever that happened, I was kind of like, what? Wait.
Yo, thank you for saying that. You kind of reminded me because there are several scenes where like I've seen this movie and I memorized it so well because it's such a big part of my childhood. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's my second favorite Pixar film. But at the same time, there were several scenes where I'm like, wait a minute, how did this get resolved again? Like several moments where
Yeah.
like where I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this movie a bunch of times before, but like, how does this get resolved again? It kept me on my toes where like I was that invested in what's going on,
Yep.
where it did, where like I was like, how did this, I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm just
like for me, it was how they got banished. Like I knew what happened. I knew how he found out. I knew how they found out and stuff that they were doing it. I just didn't know how. And then whenever it happened, whenever you saw Randall come in, I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool.
that was just it gave me
It
chills. Where
was
like
great. It was well done. I
that's such
love
a
that
good plot
twist. It
twist
was
though.
so good. It was so good. And
It's
I
such a
love how
perfect,
Waternoose is like, it's yours. You know, that sort of thing.
and
It's
you
so
have just Randall reappearing, and you hear this like this subtle sound effect of him
oh my
opening the door, and
god.
you see that
So
grin on
well
his face,
done.
and I'm just like, oh, like that hit me just as hard as it did when I first saw it, and
Oh yeah, and you know how
I
you
knew
just
that was
did the
going to
oh?
happen.
That's exactly what I did whenever I watched it too. Oh yeah.
I knew they were gonna get banished, and I
Yep.
had a feeling what was going to happen. I felt a little surprised, like what was going to happen, but a part of me was like, this is coming up. But it's still that's how you know a story is really good
Yeah, yeah,
when you're
really,
watching
really
it.
well done. If you somehow the writer was like able, or the writers, I guess in this case, if you want to be completely
There are a
specific.
bunch of writers for this film, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you want to be completely specific, that's kind of like it shows a lot about their talent because they're able to somehow write something, but you could also make the viewer kind of forget what happens next in a weird way, even though they don't like they've seen it technically before. But it was so convoluted and so complicated to the point where it's like, whoa, I actually don't know how to actually remember. I don't remember how it happened.
Actually,
I knew
I,
the A to B, but that's all I remembered.
I think it comes down more so to suspense and how they play with your emotions.
Oh
Because if it's
yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for
complicated,
sure.
it could be a bad thing because you're overloading them with stuff if you're doing it wrong.
Oh
But I
yeah.
think it's suspense
Oh
because
yeah.
like the way they're able to play with your emotions and the way you're invested and you
Plus
focusing on
the
certain scenes.
movie keeps on
Yeah.
moving. It doesn't stop. It never really stops unless you.
Especially at the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably the only part really stops is probably the banished part. But even then, it's for a important scene. It's for
It
about
felt so
if you don't have that scene, you don't have the character dynamic. You don't have that. Because
it
that was
feels
the
so
part
weird.
with Mike like going, okay, maybe Sully is kind of right. Maybe I should listen to him. That was kind of that part. It was kind of like the coming full circle thing.
There is a scene where there is a scene where like Sully where Randall gets beaten up, and as a kid it was so climactic. It still is. It's amazing. And then you have that part where they just chuck him through the door. They're like, oh, well, he's taken care of, and it flows so fast. Usually in other movies they do a lot of building up. They do
Oh
like
yeah, they're like, oh my
the epic
god.
introduction. It's such a big deal, and it takes a long time.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's just
Actual
over. It's
confrontation,
done.
the finishing, everything just takes its time. But in this movie, they just
Yeah,
that's
exactly. I was about to snap my finger too, just like that. Just nothing else. Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah, that's
Like,
it.
so Randall's gone. You know, one of the
They
main
even they even like kind of like I also like how they kind of subtle. You know how it's Riddy? They kind of do that too, where it's like, well, Randall's gone. Oh.
Yeah, I know. One of the two main antagonists of the film just chucked through.
Oh, whatever.
He tried to kill us.
And I also love how Mike does it or whatever. Like, all right, give it to me, Robin. Like, come on.
Yeah. Oh, all right, here you go. Oh,
And he's out of here.
And he's out of here.
Like it's still having fun. And then it's still having fun, and then you have Boo come in, or
I'm so jealous at how quickly they interchange between serious and
oh
comedic and have
yeah,
it be
so
perfectly
well,
timed.
so well done.
Timing, when it comes to comedy, timing is just as important as the actual joke itself, because you can make a really clever joke fall flat if you do it terribly.
Oh yeah,
It's about execution.
yeah,
Like, I feel like with writing and comedy, they're the same in one aspect, where like you can have really good ideas as a writer, but if you can't execute them properly and convey them to the audience in a way where they understand they're invested, it's like you can learn how to write events, but you have to learn how to dramatize those events in a way where you're invested and then connect them together.
Yeah.
If you're writing events, that's not a story. That's not like a legit like fiction. You know, like that's a story you can tell at a party, but like not like actual screenplay stuff.
oh
But,
yeah,
like,
for sure.
the way they're able to time and execute everything is just so perfect. Like I did mention like Mike just appearing out of thin air, but everything else was just bitch perfect.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
I also want to mention I don't know what they're
Oh, hold on. Before you mention that, hold your thought real quick, because you were talking about, oh god, what was it? Like how they kind of blend like the more serious stuff with the more joking. Even the part with how like Sully was hanging off the door or whatever, and like Randall's like, "You've been number one for too long, Sullivan, but now your time is up," and he's like starting to step on his fingers and stuff, and you see Boo getting all like emotional, and then she's like, "Okay, all right, I can do this." And she climbs on top of him, and he does the thing, but they kind of make it a joke too, where like her hitting him with the bat and stuff.
Yeah, I love doing that in my little dub where I was like,
oh yeah, it was great. It's great.
Also, here's something I noticed that was super clever. I was like, how come? As a kid, I wonder like, how come Sully and like how come it wasn't like other movies where Sully and Randall have more of a fight? Like perhaps they use different machines throughout the factory to battle each other, and like it was more of a climax sort of thing. But it's perfect that Boo actually, because in the beginning of the movie,
because they established that Boo is afraid of Randall. They
But
established
now
that.
she's not. She faced her fears and actually conquered him. So
exactly.
it makes perfect sense.
I mean, hell, Sully literally says, "Oh, she's not afraid of you anymore."
Yeah, exactly. See, I love this. See, this is the kind of discussion I love to have. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like it's perfect writing because it sets up that dynamic and it does the perfect payoff. Like it's perfect for Boo because that way she's not just a plot device to get the plot forward. She actually has her own involvement in the story just as much, and she got to help. She saved Sully for helping her out, and it makes their dynamic mutual and better and everything. And it's so cute and wholesome. And she has a character arc where she actually faces off against Randall and resolves that plot point. That was so perfect. When I was rewatching that, I was like, the light bulb went over my head. I'm like, oh, I see what they did there. That's amazing. You know, little kid me should just shut up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, what was the wasn't that the thing you were gonna discuss, or there was another thing that you had, and then
It's
I was
not
like,
important, but like the little nerds at the beginning. I like how that was that kind of like. I love how it was like, you don't talk to me that way, and it's like, what did she say? It's like, my mom, she grounded me. I'm like,
if you say that one more time, we are through. What you say?
Shut up!
you know my mom. And it's like you think it's like he's talking about some sort of girl. It was at the very beginning, or like near the middle point of the movie or whatever. We're like, if you say that one more time, we are through. And he's like, what do you say? What'd she say? And he's like, you know my mom. She sent me to my room. You think it's like some sort of girlfriend, but it's not.
Yeah, of course not. They like how they're like
It's
basement
so
dwellers or
good.
like I like how they're like basement dwellers or something. Like they live with their mom and stuff,
Yeah,
and
it's
like
so
they're
good.
cool. And then like Mike's like, Scram, you're gonna ruin his focus. And Sully's like being nice and humble. And you also mentioned earlier in the previous conversation where like Sully's like, I'm not gonna scare you, I'm off duty. Like the thing is, at the end of the movie, one thing I want to point out before I go back to what I was gonna discuss earlier. Sully, at first when I was a kid too, I also thought like with Sully, because Sully's so good at scaring, and it's like he's born to do this, and even
Yeah.
and like why like it would kind of suck for him because he's not doing his old job anymore. Like it's like if I stop doing like if you stop doing YouTubing and whatever. But no, it's actually kind of better for his character because the thing is, deep down, he does it as a job, but he's not a monstrous kind of guy. He doesn't hurt people. He doesn't do this sort of thing.
Oh my gosh.
He just does it as a job.
You know what you know what I said a few days ago? Oh god, that kind of reminds me of that. You remember the part with the part with Sully in the room with Boo or whatever, and he's like, "Oh god, you think somebody's going to come out of the closet and scare you?" Like, "Oh jeez. It's empty, whatever." And it's like, "I'm off duty. I don't do that."
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. You said that earlier. That's what I was referencing.
Yeah.
The fact that you said that, I was like, I'm gonna build on that.
Yeah.
So like the thing is,
for sure.
This new profession, yeah, he would be doing paperwork or something. He wouldn't be doing unless he learns how to do comedy too, in which case he can actually get out in the field. But like, I'm like, that would kind of suck for him. But I'm like, you know what? It wouldn't, because like the thing is, he probably feels better knowing that he's not scaring people, or that he's not like, it feels more in touch with who he is as a person, because he's not a scary person. He's a very kind, deep down, like in Monsters University, it's like, I act scary, Mike, but deep down I'm always afraid, and it's like I am afraid, but like, it's more emotionally fulfilling for him, because it's like it must be comforting to know, especially after revealing the whole conspiracy plot and how all the kids are in danger and everything, and how they're actually not as bad as the society makes them seem, where like they're all toxic and like scary and whatever, and we should take advantage of them for scream energy. Like perhaps Sully would actually be better off this way, like emotionally.
Yeah.
So like it actually makes perfect sense, like perhaps he would prefer to live this way. Perhaps he's happier like this. Well, obviously he wasn't happy because he didn't get to see Boo, but besides that, this might be a better, obviously he's such a good scarer, obviously, so the roars are going to go to waste, but like, in terms of like emotionally fulfilling, this is not the depressing ending for him at all. Perhaps he likes this better.
To be honest, you said how like the roars would go to waste. Personally, I mean, to be fair, if they're what is he really wasting them on? There's nothing really that he's wasting them on, because I mean, what was their original plan? Oh, to get Scream energy for the city. Okay, well, laughter is more powerful, so there's really no waste. Everyone wins.
I meant like in skills, like he won't.
Yeah. But like I said, how I said I don't really feel that's a waste to me, because I mean, that's kind of what he wanted to do it for anyways, because he wanted to help. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't care if he doesn't roar or do those things.
Yeah, he doesn't care, because he's so good. Mm-hmm.
Also, one funny moment I really liked was like, I don't know, it's just a subtle line, but just something about Mike's voice acting or whatever, like Billy Crystal's voice, that's just so perfect for Mike. Like something, I don't know what it is, but I just liked it. It was just, where like, he was like, I can still hear her little voice. And he has like the cube with like the little eye from her costume, from Boo's costume, and the cube didn't have her in it, but he assumed she was dead. It's like, I can actually hear her too. How many?
Yeah. Mike Wazowski!
It's like, how many kids you got in there?
Yeah, how many kids you got in there?
The way he said that. Mike Wazowski. Yeah. Go Scram Kid. And then he bites.
Yeah.
You can't forget Roz.
Absolutely. You really can't.
We can't have a long ass Monsters Inc. conversation without mentioning Roz. Come on.
Of course, yeah.
Apparently, I think he was either a writer or an animator. I can't remember, but Bob Peterson, I think. I feel so sorry, but like whatever. I'll probably correct myself in the comments or whatever. But like, he was like working with Pixar, and they do a loop group thing where like they have the animators and the artists in the studio temporarily record dialogue as placeholders so they can do animatics and drawings to see how the scenes will play out.
Hmm.
And then sometimes they do actual recording, like for instance the Black Friday reel had Tom Hanks as Woody, but not all the time. So like it depends on how early they start recording, and even then they might scrap a scene and redo it again, and blah 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 blah. So perhaps there were some stuff with Billy Crystal and John Goodman, but they're celebrities and they're busy, so like they wouldn't just call them in for like every single day. They have to get this stuff ready first, and you're like, okay, we have to set lines, we're gonna record them. So like he was the loop group voice actor for Roz, and he did other characters in different movies like Doug, etc. And Doug from Up, and they thought it was so good. It's kind of like in Shrek Forever After, where like Rumpelstiltskin was a loop group voice, but they thought it was so good that they kept it in the final movie. So he ended up being a voice actor for several iconic like Pixar characters, kind of like John Ratzenberger as the Abominable Snowman, Hammond, etc. He ended up becoming like a Pixar voice acting icon by accident. His iconic Roz voice. Who can imagine Roz without it? Like it's just
Yeah.
Just the way it has to be. Roz, is that a simple haircut? You done something. You done something. Okay, listen, I need a favor. Listen, but like, yeah, like it's just so good. Oh my god! And whenever my throat was so banged up one day, not banged up, but like I had like this illness or whatever,
Hmm.
I literally sounded naturally like Roz whenever I spoke. It was just. Or like Iago from Aladdin sometimes if I was deep enough. Yeah. Hey Jafar, I know where Aladdin is at. Speaking of which, my first ever video on YouTube was the Iago fan dub little thingy that was 20 seconds long. So I'm thinking for like my 1 year anniversary on April 18th of this year, later on, I might actually do some sort of Iago video. So like to make it come full circle, my 1 year anniversary.
Ah.
That might be nice.
Ah.
Yeah. Get ready for me, fellas.
All right.
Jafar, you're making me blush. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a little out of it. Right.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good.
Who's your favorite voice? Who's your favorite voice throughout the whole thing?
I gotta tell you, honestly, oh man, favorite voice. Now that's a good question because there's a lot. Because it's not like there's like honestly I kind of like Randall a lot. I love the way his delivery is. I love the way he.
So perfect.
It's one of those things where like you know how a character is, and you know how like okay how more specifically, man I can't speak. More specifically, evil characters are. How sometimes they will inflect through their voice that they are that character. You don't really need to know that they are. Yeah. Yeah, like very menacing type. Oh man, that sort of thing. Very, very menacing sounding.
Like sometimes they don't have to overdo it, and subtlety is key. And sometimes
oh yeah, for sure.
Where silence is more powerful than words. Sometimes that's when Randall, where like his delivery isn't always the most over the top and menacing, but his quiet, menacing, like.
At some point, we need to do Monsters University at some point. I love the fact, because I'll probably talk more about this. I love the fact that whenever like Randall, like whenever they first meet him, he's like, "Hey guys, what's up? Hey." And then once something happens to him, he's like, "Oh, so that's how it's gonna be, huh?"
That's the last time I let you win, Sullivan.
Yeah, basically.
He is menacing, but like it just comes naturally. It's not forced. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, he's not. It's just.
Yeah, it's not like parody. It's not like a parodied version of it. It's just like it seems very natural to him.
That's what I love about Pixar. It's still absurd and over the top and creative and everything. It's still very creative and over the top, but at the same time, it feels authentic and realistic. He's like
a Lotso. How Lotso kind of sounded. You kind of sound like there was some parts of his voice that sounded like, oh, I'm nice and all this, and then I'm like, I can kill you in like 5 seconds.
Steve Buscemi as Randall was just perfect. I mean, everybody was perfect.
Yeah, everyone was perfect. I was thinking about Mike too. I was thinking about Mike.
I don't know who plays Mr. Waternoose, but like his warm.
Oh yeah, wonderful voice. I did see that. I was actually looking him up because I was like, I don't know why he sounds familiar to me. But he apparently had passed away like I think a year after the movie came out.
Aw,
Yeah, back in 2002. I was like, oh shit, damn. Well,
aw,
rest in peace, man. Yeah, but
that's
he was in the business for a long time. He was probably early 50s, early 60s, around there. He was in the business for a long time. So that must
okay.
have been a crazy honor for him to do that. Um,
Yeah, a Pixar film.
oh my god, are you
They were
kidding
starting
me?
to make a name for themselves with Toy Story and Bugs Life and stuff, but like they were still big back then.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure, very, very.
So like the thing is, his voice it has this warmness and charisma to it, where you can tell he is genuinely enjoying. And when I saw the scenes early in the movie, knowing what happens later, I'm like, man, if only these two ended up
Yeah, I
together.
know, right? You see their connection and they're like, oh, it's really, really neat. And then you think about what happens and like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. James Coburn, the voice of Water News and Monsters Inc.
hmm
Oh, okay. So, okay, I might have to look up what this guy's done later. Then just to
Yeah, then
honor
it's very interesting. It's very fascinating. I looked it up. Very, very fascinating.
James Coburn.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah.
Really good voice. It fits the character perfect. The character, the voices and the performances express every aspect of the personality. It's not a stereotype where it's just like one set type. It's like it expresses everything about the character, whether it be Waternoose's warmness and charisma and love for what he does, to his more menacing, stubborn, and angry, hot-headed side. Like everything, like every aspect of his inflections and voice and everything is works perfectly. It's not a one-sided voice or performance. I can't imagine literally they could audition much wider to the entire world and they can do it over and over again, and I still think they wouldn't find someone who would fit the character nearly as well as him unless they rewrote him. And the same thing goes with every other character, like Sully, Randall. Like Randall's like slimy, cold, unenthusiastic, monotone, like like I don't give a shit, like resentful, like quiet but resentful and like petty tone. Mike's like over the top enthusiasm and like his not quite ego. I don't know how to put it. Like the
hmm
way he, I don't know. Like it's kind of hard to explain. Like those Daffy Duck. I don't know, the characters who feel like they're or Daxter from Jack and Daxter or Timon from or Mushu. Like those kind of characters who like they're not quite charismatic as if they're like the radio show host. They're kind of goofy and awkward, and they're not as cool as they think they are, but they're still charismatic, kind of in their own goofy way. If that makes sense, I don't know how to
Yeah,
call that.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
what's
Like
going on
Mike,
either.
he feel like I don't know the vibes they give off. Like Mike is funny, but like in his own way, where like I don't know
Yeah.
his sarcasm to his like his vulnerability and like insensitiveness. His
Well,
small
why don't you
his
put it to sleep? Why? I think of a plan.
yeah. I have a plan. We dig a tunnel in the city using spoons. Spoons, Mike.
Spoons.
Spoons.
You're right.
Yeah.
Wrong ideas.
Yeah. What is your? Do you have a favorite scene? I haven't thought of this. Actually, I guess Boo would at the very end scene would be my favorite.
I don't know. I don't know if that's my favorite scene to be honest.
For me, it would be my favorite. But like, I can pick a second favorite because that's an
Yeah,
obvious
I
one.
think yeah, because that's a little bit more of an obvious one. Yeah.
But it would be a disgrace to myself if I didn't pick that as my number one because I spent so long talking about it, and it's such an emotional part of who I am and one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema, let alone Monsters Inc. and Pixar. So I'm
Wow.
like, I have to.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
morally obligated.
But
to.
you could pick a second, obviously.
You go
I'll
first.
probably oh man, I don't know. It would probably have to be like a one-off joke or something like that. I gotta tell you, I kind of like the Randall part. The winds of change. I kind of like that part. It's good. It's decent. It's well
The
done.
winds of change.
It
Yeah.
kind of.
One of these days.
Yeah, and then Mike mocking it.
Can I do it real quick? It's like the winds of change.
Oh, what a creep!
One of these days, I'm gonna let you. I love how he's
Really, really
specifically
well
clarified.
done. Let
I love how
you
he
teach that guy
clarified.
a lesson.
Like when I first saw it, I thought I was like, I'm gonna teach him a lesson. But when I read the lines looking for like a status line for Mike before I changed it to Randall, I saw that line and the way it was written. I'm like, oh, that's even funnier. The way he says, one of these days I'm gonna pause, let you teach him a lesson.
really, really
So
well done. It's so good. A lot of people,
that's
because
also a thing.
I know some people like we're definitely gonna talk about it at some point. We have to. Monsters University or whatever. I know some people say like, oh my gosh, it wasn't as good as the original. I'm like, well, I wasn't really planning on it being as good as the original, but at least you know, with that line that Mike just gave, that line, you kind of think of that though, because you know, you think of the entirety of their, like, you know, their rivalry. I guess you think of the entirety of that, especially because you see it in Monsters University and stuff. But we'll get to that at some point. I'm sure we'll have to watch that one too at some point. That'd be a good
Yep.
one.
I rewatched that not too long ago too, so it's
No,
still fresh.
yeah, I'll probably
Once I've
rewatch
seen
it.
that
And
movie 100
maybe
times,
we
it's
can
fresh
do
in
it.
my
Yeah,
mind.
we'll do it at some point. I'm sure. This was great, by the way. This was amazing. By
Yeah.
the way.
Okay. Can I mention a few things? So
Oh
like
yeah, go
Randall.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I already mentioned this. Randall's movement, where like it's very like
Oh yeah,
trippy, like very like
very
the way he
like
moves his
yeah.
arms, like I'm gonna break that scare record this year, and you see his arms doing like a karate
Oh
chop,
yeah, yeah, I
like
agree.
flipping
Yeah, yeah.
around.
That's exactly what I
It's
thought of
like
whenever you gave me that. I thought of that image in my head. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, very
I
much.
did mention that earlier.
You
I'm sorry
did,
to
you did. You mentioned that like the very beginning. Yeah.
like the movements, yeah, yeah, and then of course like I said, the expression of
Just see,
movement,
yeah,
everything
that's the
else.
entire like. I mean, we could talk about the. I mean, have we talked about the visuals yet?
Oh, the rendering,
Yeah, the visuals and stuff. Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about it, but I
the set
love the
design's
way
good
the
too,
scenes
like
look, the
the
set,
buildings and the architecture, like the
like the
world building.
architecture and stuff. I love how everything looks. The style is
And in Monsters
amazing.
University, they go more into it, like with the
Oh yeah,
school.
for sure, and you really see more of it and stuff with how the college is decorated and stuff. It looks
Also,
amazing
my
there
favorite
too.
voice actor, my favorite scene too. That we kind of glossed over that. My favorite voice. Okay, I haven't thought of this before, so I'm putting myself on the spot too, just as much as I'm putting you on the spot. So I'm sorry if that. Uh, in terms of side characters, definitely. I believe Bob Peterson. I'm gonna take a gamble here as Roz, but in terms of main characters, I mean, there was also Fungus, who was really funny. It's like, I'm sorry, Wazowski, but Randall told me I'm not allowed to
Yeah, yeah,
like go fraternize with victims of the evil plot. Oh,
yeah.
I just love that. It's
But
like there was
yeah, and you can tell like he's not like, and the best part is the fact that the dude, he's afraid of Randall too. Like he's not like, it's not like, you know, it's stereotypical evil accomplice and he's with him too. No, he just kind of feels like he's just been dragged onto it and there's nothing really that he can do about it. And at the very end of the movie, whenever you see everybody doing all the laughing and stuff and doing like the laugh floor and stuff, you see him, he's like, this is great.
yeah. Also, I love like I said, another running gag that never gets annoying. The fact that like he always over explains himself, only for Randall to be like, "Just go to the machine."
Yeah.
Hurry up and check it, you idiot.
Yeah. I
That's five
also love
seconds.
the oh god, you talked about the world building. I remember I was gonna talk about this one too. I love how
That's super great.
they had kind of like, they show the dude at the beginning of the movie how like, oh, can anyone tell me what his big mistake was or whatever? Anyone, whatever. You know, that sort of, that person or whatever. The one who was like at the very beginning of the movie where you see him and he like screamed at the kid or whatever and was like dancing on the soccer ball and stuff and doing all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah. He
Yeah.
comes back at the end.
Yeah,
Oh
and he
yeah,
comes back at the end and you see the soccer ball and everything. I
I
was
was
like,
gonna
ah.
mention that, but I forgot. Like he had things on his butt, and
Yeah,
then he had the
he
ball.
had the
And he was
little
like, "Nope."
tacks and stuff. I was like, man, that's cool. I love that. And
Yeah.
he didn't overstay his welcome. He was probably in the movie for what, like 40, maybe a minute, maybe
If you're an aspiring,
in full running time. He didn't overstay his welcome too much. He was in the beginning, and then he was at the very end. Perfect.
before I make my point building on that, I'm just gonna say, I don't see another door in 5 seconds. I'm putting you to the shredder.
Okay.
Yeah, but also like everything, like I said earlier, everything. That's why I think this film should be on film schools or like things, or like maybe some sort of class, or maybe like those like sort of like essay videos. This should be like an example in writing, at least of how to do payoffs and setups properly.
Oh
Like
yeah, for
Chekhov's
sure.
gun. Because like the thing is, you have the 23, 19 gag. That's perfect. You have the progression of the gag where it gets set up in the beginning. It sets up how the world, like everything is done effectively. Where like it showcases the FBI or like whatever I forgot
The
what
CDA, yeah, the
CDA.
CDA.
it sets up that part of the world building where it establishes just how big of a deal the toxicity thing is. It's brought up in the movie, but then that gets a mini little payoff with the whole, like, this is how seriously they take it. This is how the world reacts to it. This is how the world is set up with the CDA and the government and everything.
Yep.
And, you have, George's, like, gradually, like, he gets tackled later on. And then at the very end, he chucks his partner. Not only is it hilarious, but it builds on the gag. It's not just repeating the joke over and over.
Oh
like,
yeah, for sure,
funny.
Yep,
builds on it.
For sure.
And it also does other things too, where like it isn't just like with writers, like subtext. I said that earlier, where it isn't just one thing. Sometimes a line can, or a joke or a scene can
even the part with you know how you were talking about that. I think it was. I want to say it was the second part. I want to say it was the second one. Remember how like you kind of how you said earlier. You said like they whatever they show you it for a reason. It comes back later. The whole thing of Sully stashing all that stuff inside the locker only for that character to open it up and it all falls on it.
That was perfect.
That was perfect. Really well done.
And I love the scene too where Randall's like punching like the stalls in like the bathroom, and he just so happens, and then Fungus interrupts him at the right time.
Just whenever he gets to their door, it was so well done.
That would normally be annoying, but the way it was done and animated in sequence was so
because you see it as the audience, you see them, but he doesn't, and it's so clear that he doesn't, and he's completely blinded by that. It's so awesome. I love that. They
use irony to create suspense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're like, it's like if I find them, when I find them, I'll like he just
when I find them, they're dead. And then he slams it open, and you see.
And then you have the toilet flushing, and she's like,
ew.
Yeah.
The only audible, like the only one of the only audible words from Boo. Ew.
Exactly.
It's so good.
I didn't notice that until I rewatched it just now, where I'm like, she speaks like an alien.
Yeah, it's so good. At first I thought she wasn't. At first I thought she wasn't English, but then I'm like, no. She speaks English. It's just that she just doesn't really. Yeah, that's what I thought was at first, because especially whenever she was like kind of talking to or like babbling, I guess, to Sully. It's like, I started thinking like, is it a different language or whatever? Like that'd be kind of interesting.
It's the same in every language. They could just reuse the same audio for her.
No, it would just be like, I just thought like maybe it was a different language or whatever. That would have been kind of interesting if she was like that or whatever.
Oh, they got her from a different. Oh, that would be
a cool one. That would be cool. Like, what? Why is she speaking like that? Like, we don't speak like that. That'd be kind of cool, actually. Shit.
Yeah, and then one more. Let me think. What was it like?
And like maybe, I don't know, one of the monsters somehow knows the language or something. Because I mean, hey, they know English. Yeah.
Boo almost teleport. People, like, the way she moves around, people are like, oh my god, she's one of the Incredibles. Oh my god, she's from Brave. Fan theory confirmed.
Oh yeah, the Pixar theory or whatever of like.
Well, not necessarily that, but like other theories about Boo specifically.
Yeah.
Like,
Pixar theory is probably one of the more famous ones, though. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't dislike that one. I just don't think they like. Obviously, the writers, I don't think they had that specific intention, maybe, but like, it's a fun thing to think about and speculate.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's gonna always be, unless they confirm it somehow, which I don't think they are ever going to ever do that, because it would make a lot of questions about the movies and stuff. It would like bring up a lot of questions, like, okay, well, how the hell does Cars happen? How the hell does this happen? That sort of thing. It would
distract from their specific stories.
It will also distract from the stories, like away from everything else. Because everyone's saying like, oh my gosh, all connected. It's like, oh Lord, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that theory is actually kind of entertaining, but like
it is very entertaining. It is incredibly entertaining.
Weird, though. That's what I was referring to.
It doesn't really have a lot of how you say realism into it either. So it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, it feels kind of jarring. Like it's just for the sake of fan service, but it doesn't benefit the plots at all. Like it's like
it's like someone just did a challenge of like, okay, how do I connect everyone? Basically, it's like a challenge. It's like a rhyme challenge.
Like with Monsters Inc., we learned that like all these payoff setups, everything, every moment, it's all purposeful. But like this whole reveal would be like, oh, cool, they're all connected. So now what? Like it doesn't. It kind of ruins things. It doesn't
It
necessarily
would. It would
enhance the
very
story.
much ruin a lot. Yeah, it
Yeah,
would.
it doesn't feel natural or
Cause like,
authentic.
oh well, it's okay, Boo. You'll grow up and become this person. You know, it's all
You'll become
right.
the witch from Brave. Wait, what?
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know what I mean?
I like that idea, kind of, but like I said, it kind of interferes with Monster
Oh
Inc.'s
yeah, for
signature.
sure, for sure,
It
for sure.
makes it.
I do.
It kind of.
Oh god, I forgot about the. Oh god, what was it? I know they had the Jessie doll in the ending part
And
with Boo
Nemo
and Kid, and
and the
then you have
Pixar
Finding
ball
Nemo a full like 2 years before it happens,
and the Pixar ball. Yeah.
and the Pixar ball. Yeah, just the little
Oh, it's the
tiny
one. No,
things like
it's the
that.
Wonder ball.
So
What's ball? Sorry.
fun. Oh yeah, and the Pizza Planet truck, obviously. You know,
Yeah,
at the outside
yeah, yeah.
part.
He gets stranded at the bit.
Yeah,
It's like there's a
yeah.
gator in the house.
Yeah, there's a gator. Get him, mama, get him.
Yeah. Also, speaking of the animation, I said earlier how expressions through animation and it actually rivals 2D and it does a good job at the expressions and everything. Like some of the gags and the with like some of the physical humor and comedy, like it has a lot of witty verbal dialogue. It has
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
for sure.
like irony in terms of like Randall not realizing they were right there and stuff like that, and more subtle examples of irony like in dramatic moments. But then you have physical like animation.
Yeah, sight gags. Yeah, you have a lot. Like the Oh god, what was the part
And
with
slapstick too. You have a lot of slapstick,
Oh
like
yeah,
behind
that
it.
too. And they really did it really well. Like the thing of Oh god, what was it? It was that
Mike's
beginning
trying to make
part
Boo laugh.
with not making Boo laugh also, but the whole thing whenever like they have Boo inside the room and they're freaking out and stuff, and you have I think it was Mike going into the trash can, you have him the books and everything falling into
Yeah, and then the second time that happens, where like he falls and it lands on the thing and he hurts himself, and it's like, what you want that?
and
That was a
the
perfect,
thing with him closing his hand inside the window too.
like Ross slammed it down on him.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. There's a lot of really good stuff like that.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
exactly. Like there's an equal there's like a good variety there where like it keeps you on your toes in terms of plot points and everything. Like Celia,
And even the part with Boo and the ew, and then you see the toilet paper hanging from his foot or whatever. Like,
and you
come
see
on.
the water splashing on the ground too.
Yeah, like perfect. Like really well
And the
done.
way, and also like one more thing with the villains. Like I mentioned how there are a lot of details. There's a lot of variety. Not too much to a point where it's cluttered or unnecessary, but like enough to keep you on your toes and make the experience more enriched and everything builds on each other. The same thing goes with the villains, where like you have that twist villain thing, right? With Water News. Some people argue, like actually Fearless discussed this too in his videos, where like there's a downsides to like you can either have like the traditional Disney villain that are so wonderfully evil and they're like really iconic in their own evil.
Yeah.
It sometimes, as long as they're not too flat or stale, like it can be nice to have these sort of characters every now and then. But also, sometimes you don't need and there are people who like twist villains, where like, where you have this awesome surprise. And you can't have both, and sometimes there are strengths and weaknesses to have.
Yeah. Like lots.
But in this movie, they have two separate characters. You have Randall, who's a traditional like bad guy, who is like he does not care. He's just there's no questions that he's an asshole.
Yeah, but Water Noose is kind of like, well, I want to save my company, and that's kind of whatever is kind of like the whole motive behind me joining him or whatever. So it's like he's not you have a twist villain as well. You have both. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. It keeps you on your toes and actually catches you off guard.
Yeah, because you know, as soon as you meet Randall, you know who he is. You know he's up to no good. Yeah.
It's so cool how they have both and it doesn't interfere with the plot.
Yeah, it really doesn't. That's what makes the twist of Randall appearing at the door so well, because it's like, wait, if Randall's here, then that means that that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in writing when you have the different subplots and they have to converge at some point in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
So the way it's like, oh, we have these different plots. Like how is Water News going to react to Randall's whole thing and blah 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 blah. How are they going to?
And then your question's answered in like 5 seconds, and it's like, oh, that's how he reacts. Okay.
That, and you probably think, oh, what if Water News finds out and he's on their side and blah 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 blah. But no,
he isn't on their side. Yeah.
It it's such a natural way because sometimes it could be because the thing is people are really smart and clever nowadays. So you might be really concerned with people figuring out your plot twist to a point where you're trying to like make it so hidden and that risks the plot twist being like so random where like nobody could have guessed it, and sometimes it makes it kind of half-assed and out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But if you set it up, it could be too telegrammed if you make it too obvious. But there are natural ways in a story to divert the audience's attention and make setups, and even if they figure it out, it's still well done. And this was a really good example of actually making it to where like figuring it out was actually like either a really really smart clever thing, or if you got or like you got tricked in a way that was not bad. Like they actually found a really cool way of actually keeping you off guard with the whole two villains thing. That was actually pretty clever, and I don't think many animated films did that before that. I think this is the first really big animated film to actually pull that off, or attempt that.
Oh yeah,
It's
for
actually
sure. Yeah. All right, so Billy had to go. We were about to end it off anyways, but guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, awesome. And of course, guys, I'll see you guys next video. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much to Billy for coming on here. As well. I just wanted to say that real quick or whatever. I'll probably tell him that in his DM or whatever because I guess he just had to leave or whatever. Had some things come up, but anyways, guys, I'll go and see you guys. See you. Bye.